I'm back again with more Citizen Sleeper. And you know how we do here. Gonna put the word out on socials and wait on an ad break. And we will start in about 5 minutes. Talk to you soon. Hey, Alex, welcome on in. Just waiting out the ad break. I hope you're feeling better. Sounds cool. I hope I can. I'm glad. I hope I can help give you some cozy vibes as I play this game, and that um, yeah, you get to relax for before work tomorrow. I'm doing all right. Um, I kind of watched the Cowboy versus Acme trailer like several times. I'm not ashamed to say. You don't. Oh, Cowboy versus Acme. Oh my God. Oh, wait, Coyote versus Acme. That is a movie. Basically, the gist of it is that Wile E. Coyote sues the Acme Corporation, uh, alleging their products are intentionally faulty because they keep blowing up in his face. This movie was actually almost never going to see the light of day. Warner Brothers was going to scrap it for a tax write off about 3 years ago. But the trailer dropped yesterday. I actually posted it in Ava's Discord if you want to find it easily. Yeah, it looks really funny. Well, I went on a walk, um, looked for work, applied to a few places, and well, I'm happy to say that I've lost 6 pounds. Nice. All right, we are back. Let's go. Hey, at least you got to sleep a little bit on your way back, right? That's a plus. Yeah, that's valid. I've fallen asleep on buses, planes, even the Amtrak. Right, where were we in all this? All right, we are on the study of the flux objective. Back to the climbing briar. Let's deliver the flux data. Sleeper, come look at this. Peak is poring over one of the displays of the makeshift decoding suite they have set up in the Climbing Briar's cargo bay. On the screen, a clump of data pathways, like an ingrown root ball, has started to untangle. Yeah, well, you've been working a lot. That tends to happen. This is an existing node, corrupted by the flux event. It's totally twisted up. They glance at you to check you are listening. But inside, you watch as the unwinding pathways leave behind patterns of negative spaces, like shadows staying behind despite their caster leaving, is a whole other data set. Peak's eyes shine bright in the pale screen light. The flux event somehow seeds this data deep into the gaps in the node, wrapping them around it. Why? Peak pauses. I have no idea. You watch the screen, the pattern of shadows becoming oblivious now as each layer of pathways is pulled away. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I hope that doesn't take too much out of you and it doesn't last, for too long. You watch the screen, the pattern of shadows becoming oblivious now as each layer of pathways is pulled away. The flux event itself really did a number on unprotected nodes like this one. Most of the eye systems are screened against radiation interference, but those exposed nodes, Peak makes a ripping motion with their hands, torn apart. Peak points to a thick tangle of threads on the screen. Look, here it looks like it's been tangled purposefully, but it's actually all the points within the node that have been randomly rearranged. It's if the node was a bag of ball bearings and the flux shook them. Yeah, save your strength where you can. That's valid. The pathways try to account for the rearrangement once the system came back on, hence the tangle. Peak pauses as the node continues to unwind. Although, Peak muses, it was less like shaking a bag of ball bearings and more like making them all simultaneously occupy a superposition of every possible position in the bag before locking them back into a new configuration. They smile sheepishly, but that's a technicality. Does any of that help us? For now, not especially. It explains the damage flux does to systems, but the method is an exotic one. Peak runs a hand through their hair. What we need to know is what is causing it. Where is it coming from? Peak turns away from the screen, meeting your eye. And there's something else. They pause. Have you spoken with the refugees? Yes. Peak lowers their voice instinctively. What they are reporting massive system failures, cascading collapses of life support, of terraforming systems, total data corruption. Peak swallows. The flux shouldn't do that. It can fundamentally rearrange the structure of systems, especially those poorly shielded. But totally collapsing heavy duty industrial systems, failsafes and all, that doesn't make sense. Those kinds of systems are built for deep space, for solar flares, and radiation. The flux might penetrate them, but any reconfiguration should be repairable. Peak looks back at the screen, where the decoding node lies almost fully open. A shadow pattern of the negative spaces that existed within its screenshot, within its scrambled interior, darkens the screen, like a set of bruises showing the pattern of the object that made them. I need to look into something. I have an idea what might be causing this wave, triggering the flux, but I need time to research it. Can I help? Peak shakes their head. I'm sorry, Sleeper, but I want to keep this to myself for now. If you need something to do, the flotilla could surely use the help. From what I've heard from Aish, things are tense there. I'll look into it. Good, good. Peak sounds distracted. Give me some time, Sleeper. Peak turns back to their console. I'll have some answers soon enough, I hope. You take one last glance at the uncoiling node as you leave. The dark shapes it leaves behind somehow troubling. You try to shake them from your mind. There are things to be done elsewhere. Alright, so all I can do is wait for time to pass here. I don't have upgrade points. Stop telling me that upgrades are available. They aren't. Alright, we'll end the cycle here. So, first things first, Sleeper needs to eat. Alright, now we'll go back to this job up here. I think we might even finish this job. Alright, we got it. Ooh, what happened with Mushy? Did I miss something? Oh, she's getting viewed. Yeah, I'm happy for her. She's kicking ass. I just took a minute to look at her blue sky. I definitely really want to ask her how to get seen on YouTube. She seems to be really good at that, and I want to be. Especially because I'm uploading my VODs onto my YouTube channel. I keep that secret. I do. I do a really too good a job of keeping that secret, but yeah. And I need to actually use my Instagram account. But yeah, no, I also need to put my clips up on YouTube and Instagram and what have you. So I'm happy for her. She's kicking a lot of ass. She's better at the social media game than I am. Amber looks better than she ever has before. Bliss has done an incredible job of cleaning up the hold, and despite the exterior changes being limited, she has the impression of being lighter, somehow sleeker than before. Yeah, they're there anytime you want. They are completely unedited, so you get that full experience as if you were here live. You're just unable to chat with me. But yeah, no. I still have a few VODs I need to export there, but no. Every new game I start, I'm gonna export a VOD. The streams will be archived there. Amber looks better than she has ever done before. Bliss has done an incredible job of cleaning up the hole, and despite the exterior changes being limited, she has the impression of being lighter, somehow sleeker than before. Moritz drifts by. He has been loading up the final equipment onto Amber. It turns out Ankita will be taking her weapons, but packed and ready to sell at the first Star Wars Bellport she hits. But now that Moritz is done, he seems in a kind of daze, floating back and forth aimlessly. "You okay, Moritz?" "What's that?" He turns. "Oh, right, yeah, packed and stacked." He smiles a weak smile. "Was hoping Miss Cassetta would let me keep a warhead." "For what?" He shrugs. "I don't know. Just might be a cool thing to have around." Get that. I know. And even as an affiliate, your VODs only stay up on Twitch for so long, so it's good to have them on YouTube. If I could do that with Death Stranding, I would. The problem is that there's a lot of copyrighted music in Death Stranding that's not really safe for streaming. So I'll probably get strikes if I put that on YouTube. Hey, Sleeper, he looks down. "Did you know Bliss was leaving?" "You understand now," she told him. "That's why he is like this." "I did." He nods distractedly. "She said this place is mine." He looks up around the bay like it is suddenly some vast space he doesn't know what to do with. "You'll do a great job." He looks down at you. "Hey, thanks," he smiles. "I appreciate you saying that. Not many people believed in me before now. First Bliss, then you." A dark look subtly crosses his face. "Hey, Sleeper, there was something Bliss said." He meets your eye. "Are you going too?" Before you can answer, Ankita glides into the bay, a massive crate on her shoulder. "Sleeper, you coming or what?" Bliss is already on board. She stops by the terminal, holding herself in place. Moritz looks at her with a dazed expression. Um, I don't have those VODs anymore, fortunately. Um, I'm not looking to play them again anytime soon. Not that I don't love them, but just not right now, you know? I should have been better last year. I'm still kicking myself over not actively exporting my 100-line VODs. I didn't realize it was going to be that special to me. She stops by the terminal, holding herself in place. Moritz looks at her with a dazed expression. You look at Ankita. She's keeping it together now. She's packed with all those bad feelings down someplace where you'll never see them, and build a tough foundation on top. She may not be a mercenary anymore, but you imagine most people would think twice before trying to cross her. Well, she looks at you. I'm not eager to spend another moment of my time on this station unless I have to. She pauses, looking between you and Moritz. She sighs. I'll give you a minute. And she kicks off the crate, taking it to the end of the bay where the amber sits docked. Look back at Moritz. I'm staying. Moritz looks like he might pass out. Sleeper, are you sure? Are you doing this for me? I'm staying for me. Moritz nods. All right, then. You're staying. He nods. Ankita comes back across the bay, the final crate stowed. You staying then, Sleeper? I'm staying. She nods. Well, okay then. One less mouth to feed. She pauses. Look, Sleeper, I'm not going to go back over everything that happened. She sighs. I'm trying to put that behind me, but I hope you find what you're looking for here. She smiles and kicks off, gliding to the ambergris, the starward belt beyond. You both watch in silence as Amber's drives fire up. I guess this is our place now, says Moritz, the weight of everything suddenly hitting him. Your place. He smiles. Okay, but I'll need some help from time to time. You both stay a while to watch Amber, and Bliss and Anki to leave, and then Moritz goes back to the racks to finally implement a new organizational system, and you head out, promising to be back to check on things soon. As you glide around the soft curve of the hub, you catch glimpses of the distant stars flickering through the shadows. They are beautiful, it's true, but by now you think of them as a distraction. In your time on the Eye, you've realized there's nothing out there waiting for you. No fresh starts, and no bright futures, just a whole load of problems you haven't found yet. No, your place is here, among the people you know and the problems you know. You wish Ankita and Bliss the best of luck out in the belt, but as you do, you focus on the Eye, on the vast spinning rim that rotates around its hub, on its buildings and flashing lights, on its people and places. This is your home, and for now, it contains all the features you need. Alright. Another ending. But there is still more work to do. Next round is yours. Morris arrives at the table with a couple of steel drink canisters, typical of the hub's only bar, the Gimbal Lounge. He settles into the webbing beside the table and clunks them down onto the magnetic table. This place, you have decided, is ridiculous. A rapidly spinning carnivorous spear. The gimbal's weak gravity, just like the gravity of the eye's rim, is created by its gut-wrenching rotation. The interior surface of the sphere is the gimbal's floor, which descends through the equator where one long bar loops around the entire circumference. Tumbling out from the central ring are an array of booths and seating arrangements, equipped with all kinds of harnesses in place and webbing to keep customers in place. These harnesses are there because the gimbal doesn't quite spin up fast enough. And you watch as the clientele bounce towards the bar in lazy arcs or shift from table to table with graceful leaps. What are you thinking? Asked Moritz, noticing you staring out into the gimbal. How weird this place. What to do next? Moritz looks out at the gimbal. I try not to think too hard about that, he says absent-mindedly. Moritz takes a drink and stretches. So, Sleeper, you sticking around? If you'll have me. Moritz nods. Of course I'm going to need help in the bay. Moritz rubs the back of his head. One cycle at a time, that's how I'll take it. Nice and easy. You aren't sure if he's talking to himself or you. We'll make it. He lifts his drink for a toast. To the next cycle. He pronounces and knocks it back. Later, when you finally leave the gimbal, Moritz is still laughing. You help him out of the spinning gimbal and back into the hub, sending him on his way home back to the bay. Then you pause for a moment to watch the stars as they spin and spin around the eye. You smile to yourself and think of Bliss and Ankita out there somewhere among those points of light. To the next cycle. Any work to do? Alright, let's do this. I haven't done much by the way of labor. Paid labor lately. Because, well... You know... That one job I did for Bliss, the one that finally paid off, gave me a lot of, chits. So... Yeah, no, it was worth it to spend the dice there. Alright, so there is literally nothing for me to do right now until. Alright, four more cycles. Oh man, this is gonna be a little boring, but it's gonna be worth it. Alright, that's a good day of work. Alright, we'll rest another day. And we will go to the aviary. Alright. Shame Mushroom Gravy wasn't here for that. She'd get a kick out of seeing all the different mushrooms you can harvest. And we'll do some work here. Alright, so 2 more days of this. Alright, and that will get the aviary bed ready for the next time I need to harvest mushrooms. And you know what? Screw it. Let's get some grove spores. And we'll use this last dice for some money. Oof. Alright. Alright, we will rest for tomorrow. Alright, nice. That's a good amount. Nice. Alright. That's a good way to spend your time around here. It's Mushy! Welcome on in. Alex and I were just talking about you. Congrats on 100,000 views on your YouTube channel. Nice. What else can I do for there? Alright, we will just... No, yeah, we'll just gather scrap and call it a day. We're... That is valid, yeah. Yeah, I think YouTube likes to prioritize shorter form content. But still, that is impressive. Alright, we'll end this cycle. Alright, now things are going to pick up again. Yeah, no, that's cool. That means you're getting seen, and hopefully, that will, translate over to, to your Twitch channel. Yeah, because if they like you in small doses, they'll definitely love you in your normal regular streams. All right, here we go. Have you ever heard of con channels, Sleeper? Peak asks as soon as you enter the bay, as if you were in the middle of a conversation. There are heavy circles under their eyes, and you aren't sure if they've moved since you last visited. The console they are working at seems to have grown too, shadowing their slight frame in a wealth of screens and wires. Con, you mean for transit? Yes, exactly. Peak turns to face you. Kaomani's active negation, the name of the effect used to transport trillions of tons of materials from the surrogate systems to the core. You might have heard of it in your physics classes. Hey, yeah, the art is amazing. But hey, no, I'm really happy your hard work is paying off. At XPR, they hammer the principles into us as kids. Con. P recites the definition as if in the classroom. A process of collapsing spatial causality along the Euclidean distance between 2 points by negating mass simultaneously at both ends of a geodesic curve. Essentially, con channels allow for the near instantaneous transport of raw materials between systems. They require huge volumes of energy, of course, and decades of construction. But once a con channel is established, it opens up a system for infinite exploration. The backbone of surrogacy is what XPR called them. Peak shakes their head. They might not be able to send anything more complex than a rock through them. Complex machines and people are, shall we say, reconfigured by the process. But for now, molecularly pure materials. Peak flicks a hand. Whoosh. Where's this going? I think it's pronounced peak. At least that's how how I've interpreted it. I could be wrong. Peak pauses. What I was trying to find out was whether the Helion system, this system, ever had a con channel. Con channels are vastly expensive to build, to run. Not every circuit system has one. Many use faction drive ships to transport their materials to the nearest hub, but Solheim, Peak smiles, Solheim spared no expense when they established the system. There's a con channel? Yep, Peak's eyes light up. They shut it down before the collapse. They couldn't run the sender receiver station anymore, but it was there. It still is, as far as I can tell, closely orbiting our star. In fact, Peak grins. They've been building up to this. I'm sure it's still there, because one of the issues with con channels are the massive waves of exotic energy they can produce when cycling up. The flux. Exactly. Peak's face suddenly drops. Someone is starting up the channel. Ooh. Peak sucks in a breath. That, I don't know. They start counting off information on their fingers. They need a lot of people. They need a lot of resources to do it, and they need to have people from the core systems. But there's no real large-scale extraction in the Helion system anymore, so why would you go through that trouble? Maybe it's Solheim? Peak shakes their head. The company went under decades ago, Sleeper. We might not get much core news out here, but it seems unlikely. They pause. But I've also been thinking. Peak rubs their red eyes. The flux, the wave the con effect produces, is a side effect, a problematic one. But it isn't a destructive force. If it was, the core systems would have never been able to use it. So then why are colonies collapsing because of it? Why is it chewing through systems, the kind of industrial systems set up to function within the range of a once active con channel? Peak is getting frustrated. The moons of Ember have been terraforming since before the collapse. They would have had to deal with the flux, yet everything we have heard from the refugees says it brought down every system they had. Peak falls quiet, thinking it all through. Your mind drifts too, thinking of the con channels. Those vast casual highways that prop up the core systems and their endless appetite for resources. This system has been quiet for decades. Solheim collapsed, most corporations gave up their claims, and apart from the Celis ships that came to begin work on the sidereal horizon, no one from the core has come here in all that time. You shiver as you imagine the attention of the core, the systems of logic and exploration that created you, created your suffering, turning towards the Hellion system. A floodlight turned to this dark corner. A shrill bleep catches both of your attention, and Peak rushes to a screen, one showing a crude map of the station. On it, individual markers begin to flare up with inconsistent chirps. Peak looks puzzled for a moment, then their face drops. No, no, no! They lean in close. This doesn't make any sense. What's happening? The flux nodes are appearing elsewhere on the station. Peak pulls at their hair. I set this system to alert me to other flux nodes near the epicenter of the flux event. But these are everywhere. The hub, the low end, the shipyard. How can this happen? The only reason we saw flux nodes here is because the most run down part of the station. They were barely shielded. But others appearing so far after the event? Beak turns to you. You are going to need to get me the data from these nodes and quickly. I'll keep looking at what I have here, but I need to know why they are popping up everywhere. When I can. Quickly, Sleeper, I mean it. We can talk more about con channels and system history when you are back, but this needs our attention right now. Peak turns quickly back to the monitor, their eyes following screens of code spewing from the newly fluxed nodes. You leave quickly, but struggle to shake the image of the spotlight from your mind. You feel watched as you cross back into the Pilgrim Seed, on your way to a shuttle bay. You hurry onward, eager to outrun the fear. Alright. This looks like a new hacking sequence for sure. Find and extract 3 fluxed nodes. So this is going to take a little while. Well, by little I mean relatively short while. Not here. There's one. Alright, we'll bypass this one right now. And we got 1 flux data. 1 down, 2 to go. Nope, can't do that, but at least I know this one is here. So, based on what I've seen... Hey, Spironic, welcome on in. I hope you're having a good day. How was your stream? Alright, can't access that one yet. There's 2 scrap components here. And I'll use the dice here to up my energy. And we'll end the cycle. Thank you for the lurk, buddy. Enjoy your time looking down on us. Alright, I need to re-roll these dice. And that should allow me to access the remaining flux nodes. 2 down, 1 to go. Alright, got him. That's 3 out of 3. Nice. And with that done, let's go back to peak. You watch as Peak works on the flux data, the nodes unfolding like flowers now, giving into Peak's increasingly sophisticated decoding protocols. Seeing data like this, as an image on a screen, is an almost recognizable representation of you. It rolls like swimming. It is nothing like swimming among nodes and threads. Despite this, Peak has proven themselves to be more than able to handle these complex data structures, even though this limited representational paradigm. The bay door hisses, interrupting your flow of thoughts. You turn to see Aish entering. Aish! She looks up and meets your eye. She doesn't respond. Aish stalks into the bay, heads down. She looks tired and not in the mood to talk. How's the weapon hunt? Peak asks without turning from the screen. Slow, unsuccessful, tedious. Aish slams a bag down onto a crate and hops up to sit on it. You still unpicking balls of yarn? With the sleeper's help, Peak smiles. They bought me some good stuff this cycle. Maybe they can help you find the weapons you were smuggling. It's clear that Aish doesn't appreciate Peak's tone. Doesn't Haven Age have them? Yep. Aish replies, at least until I find where they are keeping them. Aish, Peak cuts in without looking away from the console. That's not a good idea. This is my mistake, Peak, and I'll fix it how I want. Aish just folds her arms. Haven Age just lost the Cordon. Equipping them with weapons is not something I want to have been responsible for. Peak holds up a hand. Shh. They lean in towards the screen. Son of a... What? They hid it in the wake of the wave. Peak is whispering to themselves. It's alive. They lean back in their chair. Aish crosses over to look at the screen. Alive? Well, it's growing. It's processing. It's quietly working away in the dark. Look. You cross over to the screen and stand beside Aish. In it, you can see that Peak has all 4 nodes decoded, and the pattern of shadows from inside them sit on the screen like dark stains. Then you notice it, the movement. The thin threads cross from one stain to the other. As you watch, you notice the movement only ever happens in your peripheral vision, as if this thing, the shadow, knows it is being watched. This is how the other flux nodes appeared. Peak rubs their eyes. They weren't fluxed by the wave, they were corrupted after the fact. This thing, this shadow that entered in the wake of the wave, it corrupted them. But it made the corruption look like the result of the flux. It's a sleight of hand. Peak runs a hand through their hair. The flux wave is so massive, so complex, that it opens up the systems to be attacked. As it reconfigures the exposed systems, this shadow is broadcast in, implanted inside. Hey, Alex, welcome on back. Away from the con channel, it is a brute force way of hitting every system in Hellion. Once the systems are vulnerable, Peak looks pale, their eyes reflect the screens. The flux isn't what is attacking the systems. It is the siege weapon, a Trojan horse. Then this thing takes over. Peak sits back in their chair, but it's already on the eye. Wait. Aish rubs her forehead. You're telling me there's a con channel in this system? Shit, Peak isn't listening. This is bad. We have to take this to someone. Peak looks desperately at you. It's all good. Glad to have you back. Helene, is this wise? H cuts in. Haven Age hasn't exactly made good decisions lately. They are the station administrators, H. Peak is desperate. They need to know. The argument rages between them. As you watch them shouting, you feel sick. After a while, they stop, running out of things to say. An unsettling silence descends on the bay. I need some more time, Peak says quietly. I need to look at solutions, try to build a case, collate the evidence. We messed this up. They look down at their hands. H goes to speak and then thinks better of it. Not a word, Sleeper. Peak meets your eye. Don't tell anyone until they are ready, they sigh. With the tension among the refugees, Saul won't be ready to hear this, and Helene and Havenage are still mired in some kind of crisis. We tell Havenage they are likely to react badly. Even with the flotilla stabilized, Saul is not going to react well to this. I need time to build a case. Oh, damn, that sounds delicious. I'm on a diet right now, so I'm not even going to try to look for something like that. You are too twisted up in this, Peak, Aish says quietly. This is not our place. We don't owe... Stop, Aish. Peak slumps in their chair. Stop. You leave them like that, exhausted and troubled, and head out back into the Pilgrim Seed. When you close your eyes, you think of those shadows, that movement at the edge of your vision. Something dark, growing in the station like a parasite. You feel sick. Your vision blurs. What comes next? You stop in a corner and take a breath, putting a hand on a rumbling metal wall. For now, the eye keeps spinning. For now. Alright. That's 3 upgrade points, finally. No, you're good, you're good. You did not do anything wrong. I'm just trying to get in some better shape, you know? We'll go with Cryo Haggler for this one. Alright, with nothing left to do, we'll end the cycle. Right. Yeah, no, asthma. Yeah, no, asthma can be a problem. And that's putting it lightly. Alright. Okay, so it looks like kind of nearing the end game here. Oof, yeah, that sounds rough. Sucks that there's almost nowhere to do now. Yeah, no. I totally understand that. It's important to have an inhaler on hand. Is... Yeah, the aviary is available again. Actually, I'm gonna rest in my actual home. Feed the cat. Actually, I'm just gonna crazy feed this thing. See if it pops up again. Alright, I guess that doesn't do anything. You only have one interaction with the cat. Sleeper, Peek is waiting for you in the corridor. It's time. Peek looks pale and disheveled with heavy marks under their eyes and strands of hair sticking to their face. I'm ready. Peek holds up a thumbnail blah. Peek holds up a thumbnail-sized drive. All the data I've compiled on the flux event, the effects of the wave, and the structures that hide within it is on here. You look at the tiny drive. You look at the tiny drive, a casket of dark secrets. I've annotated it to the best of my ability. Anyone should be able to understand the threat, the potential in this Peak size. It makes for grim reading. Without intervention, the Eye will suffer a cascading collapse of systems, just like the colonies of Amber's moons. Intervention? Pete grimaces. That I'm still working on. Alright, Alex. Rest well, my friend. Thanks for coming by. Always a pleasure. Peek looks at the drive. This shadow in the flux, this protocol, is so hard to pin down, it adapts to any countermeasure I have tried to deploy. It's like trying to hold water in a cage. It slips straight through. But there has to be a way. Peek closes their hand around their drive. We need help, Sleeper. This is about everyone on the station, they sigh. We have to set up a meeting to tell someone who can do something about all this. Helene? Perhaps. Peek pauses. But if anyone can protect the Eye, it's Haven Age. But their internal politics will make it hard for them to act. Will they even listen to us? Or perhaps, Peek adds thoughtfully, we've been thinking about this all wrong. Peek's eyes glint. Why make a choice when we could tell both of them? Why pick a side when the only side in this entire thing is the one we all need to take? Peek speaks as they think, their words barely keeping pace with their thoughts. We need to resist this together or we will fail. We need everyone on board, Sleeper. Peek smiles. This is the only way. We send the data to both. You are right. Peek smiles. I'm glad you see it too. They look away. Another flux event is coming. I'm sure of it, and I'm not sure we can survive without help. Peek opens their hand and holds the drive out for you to take. You need to do this, Sleeper. I can't. You know Saul. You know Helene. They trust you. To them, I'm just another spacer, but you are a part of this place. Hearing someone else say it hits you hard. You are a part of the Eye. Peek is right. But right now, that feels more like a weakness than a strength. I have set up a data relay at the cordon. It's neutral ground. Take the data and send it out to Haven Age and the flotilla. Once they receive it, they will come. We can be sure of that. Alright, we have an ad break coming up in a little over a minute. I do not play during ad breaks, so when the 3-minute ad break hits, feel free to get up, do some self-care. I'll resume playing once it's over. You will meet them there, and take them through it all. No one could do a better job. They took a strand of hair behind the ear. Come with me. Peek pauses. I can't. It would only draw suspicion on you. Haven Age want nothing to do with us, and Saul is paranoid at best. Peek tentatively puts a hand on your shoulder. Thank you, Sleeper. I know this is hard, but we have to move forward. We can't keep this to ourselves anymore. They step back, looking thin and pale in the harsh station light. Come talk to me once it's done. And they slip away into the Eye. Alright, so what do I do exactly? They didn't exactly define an objective. Alright, once you send. Warning, final episode. Once you send the data, the episode purge and the final series of events on the eye will begin. After this point, you will not be able to return to complete other drives or find other endings. Make sure you are ready. Now, before I do that, we're gonna have one final rest. Well, there's the ad break. So I'll see you in 3 minutes. Okay, we are back. And as I was saying, I'm going to use a stabilizer. I take one. Actually, that's not true. First things first. Max out my energy. And use a stabilizer. Actually, before I do anything else, go to the labs. Alright. Just in case. Alright, I will be at my best for the next part of this game. Well, Might very well be the last part of this game. Alright, Peaks Relay Lives ready. This is it. This data is a ticking time bomb. Once it's sent, there's no going back. Here we go. With the data set, the only thing to do is wait. As you do, you imagine Helene receiving the data, perhaps in the middle of some Haven Age Council meeting. You think of her trembling hands as she slips out of the room to read it, a reaction you can't predict. You imagine Saul too, one of his crew finding him in some corner of the Pilgrim Seed, overseeing the modifications that will turn it into an arc. Those sharp eyes scanning the data, looking for a way to proceed. The wait draws out, and to pass the time, you watch the activity beyond the edge of the eye. The scrap shuttles pulling components from the now abandoned cordon, and the supply ships making runs between the flotilla ships. It isn't long before you hear the chirping of one of Helene's now familiar drones approaching the viewing platform, and then Helene strides into the room. Where did you get this, Sleeper? Helene holds up a slate of scrolling with streams of flux data as she enters. I need to know your source. Hello to you too. You didn't bring me here for a reunion, I assume. Helene smiles a thin smile, and you'll forgive me for slipping the pleasantries. She pauses and pushes her hair back out of her face. This is a lot to take in. A shadow protocol inside the flux? The system's con channel starting up? A total collapse of the eye? She rubs her forehead. If I bring this to the council, they'll... She turns away. They'll believe you. She laughs. Do you know what has been happening within Haven Age, Sleeper? She looks away, at the flotilla. Since the refugee ships started arriving, things have changed. It's chaos. No one can settle on a single issue. There is division at every vote, but in the division only one group prospers, the hardliners. Because as each counselor gets tired of the arguments, gets tired of the compromise, they become more attached to the easy answers. The flotilla is to blame. The refugees are opportunists. The eye must be defended. She shakes her head. And now you are telling me they brought something to the eye that will cause its collapse? They didn't bring it. It doesn't matter, Sleeper. That is all the counselors will hear. She closes their eyes, a hand to her temple. Many of them already presume that the refugees are somehow to blame. Did someone say refugees? Saul clanks into the docking bay, grinning at the situation. Speak of the devil, and well, here I am. His suit hisses as he settles on his cane. Helene glances between the two of you, uncertain if she has been drawn into some elaborate plan. Saul holds out a hand to her. Saul, he nods. I believe we have spoken remotely, while the cordon was still up. I sent you both the data. Saul laughs. Well, thank you. He raises an eyebrow. Evidence of our mutual, inevitable destruction is not much of an olive branch, but I'll take it. I'm not Haven Age, Helene blurts out, then corrects herself. What I meant to say is no one person represents Haven Age. That's the idea. I did not support the cordon, and I did not support your quarantine. Saul nods. Well then, Saul glances at you. Anyone mind if I get myself up to speed here? He pauses, but you get the feeling he isn't expecting an answer. 1. The flux events, the very same destabilizing waves that have collapsed the colonies on the moons of Ember, have reached the station. He holds up a stubby finger. 2. According to the data Sleeper provided, these events are acting as a cover for some kind of intrusive protocol which is causing the real damage. A second finger joins the first. 3. This shadow protocol will do the very same thing it did to Ember's Song, Step and Hearth, and quickly. In short, it'll shut down everything keeping this place alive. The third finger pops up. 4, and this is my favorite, we have no idea who is doing this and why. Saul's final finger joins the other 3. Is that about the total of it all? There's also another flux event coming. Of course there is. Saul smiles thinly. Sounds... Helene pauses, searching for words. Intimidating. Helene turns to Saul. Did you manage to put up any kind of resistance on Ember's Hearth? Saul shakes his head. That's why we are here. The Pilgrim Seed was the biggest ship to make it out unscathed. He pauses. I suppose we didn't have this data. We didn't know what it was eating. We didn't know it was eating up the systems. We all thought it was the flux. Aline looks at you, and I imagine you, Sleeper, and whoever helped you uncover this, we might be able to find a countermeasure? We can try. Aline nods with approval. Okay, so that's the start of it. If you'll forgive me, cuts in. Part of why I was able to save as many as I could on Ember's Hearth was that I gave up hope early. Saul shifts his weight, his suit hissing. There were endless strategy meets, system reboots, tests, and trials, but I just got on with working on the Pilgrim Seed, with getting people on board. So when the second and the third wave, so when the second and the third and the rest of the Flux events hits, we were ready to go. So if I can offer you some advice, Miss Not Haven Age, it is to give up on that line of thought you have, that hope, and start the evacuation now, right this cycle. Saul looks out of the observation deck towards the Pilgrim Seed. I've already started the process of converting the remaining volume of Pilgrim Seed for human habitation. With Haven Age's resources, I dare say we can finish the job with time to spare. Saul scratches at his beard. I know it's hard and I know it's sudden, but you have to give up hope. We have to run. There will be no heroes here, just those that keep living and those that don't. Aline listens in silence, making calculations. She looks out at the bulk of Pilgrim Street, which, despite its vastness, is dwarfed by the eye as a whole. Something flickers in her eye. She opens her mouth to speak. She stops, frozen. Let me think, Aline rubs her temple. I need a moment. Aline paces, and you watch her as you realize how young she is, and how lost she is in the systems and protocols she has to navigate. You can almost see the strings and ties that bind her, glinting like webs in the wide space of the observation platform. We purged, we purged the Shadow Protocol. Aline stops pacing. But with what resources? The data you sent me, this thing is a shadow, uncontrollable, untraceable. But with the perhaps with the full contingent of the Haven Age Systems Department, but that would require hundreds of work orders to be overlooked. Maintenance schedules abandoned. She looks away. Getting that through the council, would that even be possible? She glances at Saul, who is patiently watching, listening. We have to try. Elaine looks at the slate again. I will take this to the council, force them to listen, force them to act. You both jump as someone loudly clears their throat nearby. Your eyes jump to the dark entryway that Helene just emerged from moments ago. What a cozy little meeting this is. A man steps from the shadows, dressed in the same style of Haven Age overalls as Helene. And I must say, that is some very incendiary rhetoric you are using there, Counselor Helene. You glance at Helene and her face drops immediately. Kemp, she curses under her breath. Saul shifts his weight on his cane, but otherwise remains still like a casual observer. Plotting against Haven Age with an interloper. He gestures at Saul. Everyone will be so disappointed. Kemp smiles a bright smile. Some of the counselors had such high hopes for our youngest members. His smile drops. I, of course, never let novelty distract from the importance of experience. Aline stares daggers at Kemp. Enough of this petty shit, Kemp. You need to see this. She holds out her slate with outstretched arms. The games are over. No more point scoring, no more lobbying. You and your hardliners need to stop. This is something real. Kemp calmly takes a straight. Kemp calmly takes the slate and prods through the screen, scrolling through the flux data. His face betrays nothing, but you see some complex calculation flickering in his sharp eyes. He gestures, and out of the shadows, two Haven Age security officers appear. As they do, both you and Helene take a sharp breath in. They are carrying long, boxy guns. You've never seen anything like them on the eye. Gloss XPR logos glint along their barrels. These are Aisha's weapons, confiscated by Haven Age, and the smuggling operation got wrong and now put to use. Kemp holds up the slate, and one of the officers takes it and slips it into a pocket in his vest. He smiles at Helene, then follows her eyes to where they are fixed on the matte black barrels of the officers' weapons. The weapons we confiscated from the spacers, Helene looks at you. From your friends. She narrows her eyes at Kemp. You can't do this. You can't use them. Kemp shrugs. You have just handed me the evidence that the flotilla has infected this station with a virus, with a shadow protocol that threatens the life of every Haven Age member, every person on the Eye. He gives Helene a dark look. This is not the time for half measures. Helene steps forward without thinking, and immediately the officers raise their guns. Be very careful here, Helene. I don't think escalating this situation will play in your favor. Kemp sighs. You are in the wrong here. Plotting in the council, hoarding data vital to our work. It's all so obvious. God, I hate this guy. You couldn't win power by Haven Age's systems. By our laws, so you resort to this. Kemp shakes his head. The law is with me. It is as simple as that. So now you need to come with me. Saul shoots you a purposeful glare. Now is the only moment you have. Run at Kemp. You rush Kemp, but as you do, Saul twists one of his arms, snapping something on his suit. A burst of pressurized gas jets out, clouding the room in a choking cloud. Somehow, in the gray, your shoulder finds Kemp. He tumbles backwards, pulling you with him. Then something crackles blue through the gray, like lighting inside a cloud. The weapons. The fear takes over and you stumble to your feet, running from that terrible cracking sound as it whips through the gas. You stumble onto another body in the haze and both of you tumble through a doorway. It is Saul. You stumble and limp together mindlessly through corridor after corridor until that crackling sound is no longer echoing in your ears. Catch your breath together. Saul wrenching his suit back into shape and leaning heavily on his cane. I assume that wasn't part of the plan, Saul coughs. Certainly gave life to proceedings, though. Are you okay? Saul pats at his suit, his hand trembling. As okay as usual. He straightens up. I'll be honest with you, Sleeper. None of this changes anything for me. Pilgrim Seed will be going in a handful of cycles, whether Haven Age wants it or not. Can't abandon the Eye. Saul raises an eyebrow. I seem to remember it was us being abandoned not so long ago. I'm not sure the reverse applies. Saul puts a hand on your shoulder. There's a berth for you. And for any of you can gather, Sleeper. That much I owe you. And Helene? Even if she made it out of that, Saul gestures back down the corridor, I wouldn't hold out much hope of her coming around, Sleeper. She's too tied up in all this. It won't let her leave even if she wants to. He eyes you. Hell, I'd even say the same about you, but you have a habit of proving me wrong. Saul glances back down the corridor. Now I think we better clear out. I'm not sure those officers won't come looking. My crew will meet me on the edge of the cordon, so I'm good from here. Saul leans on his cane. Oh, and thank you, Sleeper, for sending the data. I appreciate the extra info, and I'll see if it can help us shore up the Pilgrim Seed against any future Flux events. We will be leaving as soon as we are able. If you want to help us get there faster, well, you'd be welcome. He meets your eye. If we had you back on Ember's Hearth, he pauses, suddenly losing his appetite for discussing the past. Well, he smiles, just don't keep me waiting, and he limps off down the corridor towards the edge of the cordon. You pause for a moment to let your thoughts catch up. Peak will want to hear all about this. They should be your first port of call. Alright. So I guess I can't save this place. Oh man, that is really sad. Well, let's talk to Peak. As you enter the climbing briar, you immediately have to jump aside as Aish, hugging a massive crate across the cargo bay, pushes past you, grunting as an apology as she does. But back. Aish doesn't look back. As you turn back to the bay, Peak pushes past you. Sorry, Sleeper, just a second. Peak rushes down to catch up with Aish. Put that down. Please, Aish. But she doesn't respond to their urging. Can't leave, not yet. Peak puts a hand on her shoulder. Please, I'm the only one here who can... crate drops at the sound of its impact echoing around the bay like thunder. Can't do what, Peak? Her eyes are burning with anger. Save this place? Are you still that naive? We are running, Peak. We are running because this thing cannot be stopped. It couldn't be stopped at XPR, our home. Why would we stay to stop it here? Because we can, Aish. We can give these people a chance, Peak pleads with her. Like they gave the refugees a chance? Aish shakes her head. No, Peak, this is not on us. We barely made it out of XPR. I worked for years and to escape, and now you want to throw it all away? I left everything behind. My mother, my friends, to take you out of that place. She clenches her jaw. She turns and slams her hand onto the crate, breathing hard. We go. That's the end of it. Peak turns away. You feel unsure what to do, but you know now that it's not the time for outside arguments. This is between them. Peak crosses the bay back towards you. I'm sorry you had to see that, Sleeper. They sigh. Let's talk upstairs. Peak leads you to the entry ladder. Taking you up out of the bay and into the habitation level of the ship. You follow them through the tight corridors, noticing the handwritten notes, the clutter, the repairs, the signs of a home. Here, sit. Peak gestures to the broad mess table with its curved couches, and you slide in on one side. Peak sits opposite. They brush their hair out of their eyes and take a deep breath. So, how did it go? What did they say? I've been waiting all cycle. It's all about Haven Age. Peak listens nervously as you explain how Helene doesn't feel she can get support from the Haven Age Council. Shit. Peak looks disappointed. I was really hoping she'd be able to provide some backup, or at least convince the council. They pause. How'd you leave it with her? Maybe we could reapproach with more data in a couple of cycles once she's had time to process? We tell her about Kemp. Peak looks in increasing trouble as you tell them about the hardline counselor Kemp's sudden appearance, about the XPR embossed guns and the resulting chaos. You admit you don't know what happened to Helene. Peak is silent for a moment. Those are Aisha's guns, right? The ones she smuggled out of XPR on the ship? The ones she didn't tell us about? Peak looks desperate. Yes. Peak's head drops. Aish. Peak whispers to himself. Peak takes a deep breath. Then we can't be sure Helene can help us at all. If Kemp has taken her, or if the council looks on your meeting darkly, Peak nods softly. Then this is on us. What's on us? Aish is standing quietly in the doorway listening. You don't know how long she's been there for. Peak looks up at her with tired eyes. Sleeper found the weapons you smuggled from XPR. Aish freezes. She glances between you and Peak as if this might be some elaborate joke. Haven Age used them? Aish moves out of the doorway and enters the room. What happened? Peak interrupts. The hardliners within the Haven Age Council used them, Aish, against their own members. Aish shakes her head. Good. Anyone in that corrupt mess deserves what's coming to them. She grimaces. But they should never have laid their hands on those weapons. If I'd have known... Peak goes to speak, then decides not to take the bait. They glance at you. I'm sure you've heard enough of us arguing this cycle, Sleeper. Peak shoots a look at Aish. But our introduction of those weapons into the equation are another reason why we simply can't run away. Aish looks away, but says nothing. She surely knows they cannot absolve themselves of responsibility here, so what is motivating her? You realize she might be trying to protect Peak, even from themselves. Suddenly, a shrill beeping fills the room, and Peak fills out their slate to silence it. But as they do, they freeze, their finger hovering above the screen, the beeping continuing its insistent pulse. What? Peak doesn't seem to hear you. They blink with glazed eyes at the slate. Then they let out a long exhale and tap the screen. The bleeping shuts off, leaving ringing silence behind. Aish frowns at Peak. Planning to explain? 12 cycles. Peak looks vacantly at you both. 12 cycles into the next flux event. They shake their head. I have been using the arrays on the Briar to look towards the center of the system, to approximately where the con channel should be. Just this moment, they detect a signal from the inner system. Given the distance and pattern of previous flux events, we have 12 cycles before it reaches the eye. The silence in the room is deafening. 12 cycles. That's it before second wave hits this place. Peak interrupts your thoughts. We start now. That's the end of it. Peak stands up to face Aish. You want to take on... You want to take the briar and run, Aish? That's on you, but I won't do it. They take a deep breath. I'll be here, Sleeper. For every cycle it takes, trying to find a solution. I'll need your help. Their eyes meet yours, and you see a wild desperation flickering there. We will find something. The sooner we have a plan, the better. If it takes us 12 cycles to fix this thing, it'll be too late. Peak's eyes flash with determination. They reach for a slate and pass it to you, so we can keep in touch. You pocket the thin handheld terminal. And Aish, Peak starts, but she is gone, storming down the corridors of the ship on a path to who knows where. You know from experience that it is impossible to outrun your fears, but you get a sense that Aish will try anyway. Peak rubs their red eyes, staring after Aish. Maybe I'll take a moment before we start. They smile weakly, tears of exhaustion gathering in their eyes. See you back there soon, okay? And you slip from the room onto the corridor. Peak's quiet sobs somehow carrying through the ship as you leave. Alright. We're going to protect the eye. And yeah, we'll just... Peak beckons you over the wide mess table where they have set up a terminal. The hours of blue-eyed work have left you both drained, and Peak looks ready to collapse. You slide onto the curved couch beside them, something dark and malevolent filling their screen like an oil stain. The Shadow Protocol. Not quite. Peak's eyes seem to glitter in the spotlight. This isn't what you think, Sleeper. Not by a long shot. You look again at the screen, leaning in close to the dark, curved shape to see its texture. You see whirls and currents like a river, a dark flow unlike the Shadow Protocol's dark tangle. You know exactly what this is. You have swum in this river, almost drowned in its shifting flow. It is the Gardener's Course, the dark cloud which blankets the Greenway's networks, the bioorganic morass of a malfunctioning protocol group vast and strange. The Gardener. Pete glances at you. How do you... They pause. Have you met them? I have. Peak shakes their head. Incredible. Then perhaps you won't be surprised by what I am about to propose. Peak meets your eye. Everything I have tried to do to contain the Shadow Protocol has been a failure. It slips through any containment, absorbs any countermeasure. That, unfortunately, is an unavoidable fact. And yet, the eye still spins. The Shadow Protocol is still being slowed, partially contained. It has spread across the station as we have seen, but in reduced pockets, in fragments. So I started to look outside of our test cases. Outside of those fragments, we have been poking and prodding in our little lab. Peak smiles. And look what I found. Peak taps a key on their terminal, and you realize the screen is showing a recording of the data flow inside the ice networks, sampled from hundreds of points around the Greenway. You watch as a subtle shift occurs at the edge of the flowing dark curve that blankets the Greenway. Something spreading like an ink stain. Something darker than black, it bleeds across. The Shadow Protocol. Now watch. Peak eagerly points at the screen. You see something strange. A fizzing at the edge of the shadow. Sparking. And then it's gone. And beneath, for a moment, a millisecond, you see into the networks of the Greenway. You are reminded of an image you had forgotten. Of pulling a plant from its pot and seeing a bone-white roofed ball where you expected to see dark soil. The white connections writhe like worms, and then it is gone. The dark flow closing up as quickly as it opened. What did I just see? Hope, Peak sighs, wrapped up in something terrible. You think back to your meeting with the gardener, to that sense of something old and world, and inhuman to its core. Peak excitedly starts to explain, this is the only chance we have, the only countermeasure we have seen. In the moment it opened, I detected something. A centralized intelligence with the local ID gardener. This protocol, this system, whatever it is, can protect its network from the Shadow Protocol. But it stays in the Greenway. The eye will still fall. The station's systems are too exposed, too spread across the hub, the shipyards, the spokes. Pete glances away. The only way is to break it open, to spread the entire network to spread the entity's network across it, to expand it somehow. Peak pauses. You want to let the gardener out? Peak stands up and walks away a little. They lean against the countertop, their head hanging so low their long hair touches the work surface. You hear them breathing deeply. I don't know, Sleeper. They lift their head. I really don't know. It's a chance. Maybe. They shake their head. You know as well as Peak that this is it. You know it because over the past cycles you have run every simulation, every possibility you could think of, and have still come up with nothing. You have started you have You have stared a hole into your screen and dreamt of that black shadow creeping in at the edges of your vision. Peak recognizes that look in your eyes, the potent cocktail of resignation and anger. Let's say we do this, Peak begins, eyeing you carefully. What do we need? They begin to answer their own question, thinking out loud. I suppose we need to do two things. Find a way to limit or control the gardener's spread, and then reconnect the Greenway. Peak starts spacing. The idea is coming quickly now. Controlling the spread means preparing the station. Limit the gardener's network to the key systems. We don't want it taking everything, we just need to protect the station core's functionality. Then we need to reconnect the Greenway, hook it back up to the main line of the network. Those systems we prepared, they should connect, and the gardener will spread along the paths we prepared. At least that is my theory, Peak grimaces. But if we don't prepare correctly, the gardener might not spread, or it might spread to everything. Peak closes their eyes. And after that, things might get worse. That's the risk. Peak nods. One hell of a risk. Peak sits back at the terminal and brings up a map of the eye. Rotational control at the hub. Life support at the free spoke. Power routing at the Haven shipyards. They stab the map with each one, marking them in red. Then there's the central core, as I understand it. As I understand it, it is... Blah. Then there's the central core. As I understand it, is somewhere on the rim. I'd need to find it. They push the hair out of their face. We see the gardener in all these places, Peak pauses. But how are we going to do that? Bait the gardener's attention. Peak smiles. Of course, the gardener needs plants to care for. That's what the protocol dictates. They must have been part of the farming management systems of the Eye back when Solheim built it. We see Greenway plants into those systems, and the gardener will seek them out, protect them. Peak stares at the map of the Eye. It's a wild idea, but it could work. But, they pause, we'll need a way into those systems. Haven Age has most of them locked down for safety purposes. We can't just walk in. I know a guy. Peak raises an eyebrow. Someone in the Haven Age systems team? You nod. After everything he dragged you through, you feel like Fang still owes you. Time to pay him a visit. Okay, well, I guess Peak looks at you sideways. I guess we should pay him a visit. Lead the way. You both lead the ship, carried forward by the excitement of the plan and an eagerness to not look back at the details too closely. You push any lingering questions to the back of your mind. Time to head to Fang's Bay. Alright. And what the hell? We'll use the dice here. Alright, we'll finish that on the next cycle. Alright, come on, don't fail me now. Ah, fuck. Should've just used this one right out of the gate. Alright. That's it, no more wasting time. Peek sighs and pulls out their slate. They crack open a box on the side of the heavy bay on the bay's shutter and wire the slate to what's inside. Maybe your friend has a Haven Age pass card or something inside. Peek shoots you a glance. Or maybe something they wouldn't mind if we borrow. Let's wait. Peek doesn't look up. We haven't got time to wait, they sigh. Coming here was a mistake. After a few tense moments, the shutter jerks and begins grinding open, the noise making you jump. Let's get inside. Peek glances around quickly. You slip into the dark of the bay, punctuated by the blinking lights of Fang's piles of servers, somehow even more disordered than before. Peek makes a beeline for the desk at the center, scattered with tools and components. They flick on a lamp and stare at the mess. Are you sure this person can help us? Yes. You are interrupted by the sound of footsteps from the entrance. Someone is coming from behind you. Peek freezes. I could swear I closed this shutter when I left. Fang leans on a stack of servers near the entrance. Must be getting forgetful, he grins at you. Sloppy. I'm the one that makes the jokes, Sleeper. Fang smiles. Don't start. Fang raises an eyebrow. Thought you'd come to rob an old friend. Is that the plan? We need your help. Fang nods. You're here about the flux. Peek nods and is suddenly giving Fang their full attention. Fang smiles, pleased with himself. I guess as much. I saw changes in the old system architectures almost immediately. Some of them have been running since the first days of this station. So I know, and so when I saw new patterns, shifts in logic, I knew something must have happened. These past cycles I've been doing a total inventory of the core systems, from the hub to the rim, he grins. I've surprised myself, to be honest, but I didn't think I had it in me. Peek seems unamused. And what did you find? Thing size. That's the thing. There's something all twisted up in the systems and protocols, but every time I look at it, it disappears. Peek finishes. Fang turns to you. Do they always do that? Peek ignores him. It's a shadow protocol. It masks itself somehow, bedding into the gaps between the systems in the negative space. It is slowly filling every system in the station, slowly taking over, and we need to stop it. You need to grant us access to all the core systems of the stations. Rotational control, life support. Fang holds up a hand. Whoa, 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 slow down there. I don't even know your name. Fang shakes his head. And you are asking for the keys to the castle? Can't be done. You can trust Peek. Fang pauses and glances between the both of you. How long have you known this one, Sleeper? I know I owe you, but I also know that you trust too easily. Sorry to say it. Peek cuts in. I can vouch for myself. I came to the Eye on the run from the ex-PR colony Hawthorne, with the intent to keep running until we hit the Starward Belt. But since I have been here, I have done everything in my power to protect this place. I have helped to stabilize the refugee flotilla, to investigate the flux, to identify and make a plan to purge the Shadow Protocol from the station's systems. Meanwhile, Haven Age has done everything to slow and stop these actions. I have proven myself as a friend to the people of this station, not the administration, many times over, and I will not be doubted by someone who wears the badge of this corrupt administration. Peak fixes Fang with a hard look. Fang looks down at his Haven Age jacket and shrugs. This is all I have in my wardrobe. Look, I have no love for the council either, friend, but someone has to run this place. And that someone is me. Fang walks over to the workbench where you both are standing and digs a slate out of the pile of tools. You want to prove yourself? Show me. Fang grabs the slate and you recognize the tangled form of a flux node on the screen. Peak immediately starts tapping away at it, its tendrils unwinding, and the shadow, just slightly delayed, slipping out of sight. Fang leans in. Interesting, he says to himself. Before long, Peak has unfolded the system completely, and it lies splayed out like an unwound ball of string. At the center, with nowhere left to hide, is the dark stain of the Shadow Protocol, visible for all to see. What now? Fang asks, his eyes fixed on the screen. How do you kill it? Let Peak answer. There's one entity on the station we have seen purging the Shadow, the Gardener. Fang frowns. Who's that? Some Greenway hacker? Pete glances at you, more like an avatar of the Greenway itself. You explain the Gardener to Fang, the feeling of descending into the flowing river of consciousness. You explain the network chorus, the non-human collective of voices. You tell him of the farming AI's offer to you, to be networked into the chorus, dissolved in its flow. Then you explain that by granting it access to the Eye's major networks, you hope to reinforce them. Fang is silent for a moment. And you want to let this thing out? He shakes his head. That's the kind of stupid plan I'd dream up. He pauses. I like it, he smiles. This place is rammed with weird protocols and forgotten intelligences anyway. What's one more ghost in the machine? We try to limit it, of course, Beak explains. That's why we want your help to access the Eye's major systems, to seed some of the Gardener's spores into them, to draw the Gardener's forces into those places. Peak whistles. So the way we save the Eye is by growing mushrooms in all the sewer stacks? He glances at you. Sleeper, congratulations. You found someone weirder than you. Pete goes to argue, but Fang holds up a hand. In it is an all systems Haven Age pass card with his picture on it. Take it before I change my mind. Thank you. Don't mention it. Faye gives you a look. In all honesty, Sleeper, I was on my way back here to start tearing the place down. The Shadow Protocol had me spook. So if you are telling me you have figured out a way we might fight it, he looks at Peak, no matter how crazy, then I'm glad to help. He smiles a tight smile. Come with us. No, Sleeper. He looks away. I have to keep on with my work here. Strengthen those systems. Back up the data. The worst comes to worst, I'll need to rebuild. I won't let this place die. The last pieces of my parents are here, among the data. Goodbye, Fang. Fang embraces you firmly. Stay safe, Sleeper. You take the card and leave the bay with Peak. Once you are outside, they stop you. We should split up, Peak looks worried. We've wasted enough time as it is. Head to the facilities in the hub. The free spoke and the far side of the shipyard. See the Gardener there. I'm going to find the core control center that's somewhere on the rim. They hold up their slate. I'll send you a message on your slate when I have something. Good luck. They squeeze your shoulder, and you exchange fearful looks. You know deep down that Peak isn't sure this will work, but they have decided to act, to move with confidence. And for that confidence, you are very thankful. Alright, access and see the systems. Alright, so we just need spores. Alright, so I can't add anything to this. I'm gonna check that on the next cycle. Ah, okay, alright, never mind. That... That's for everything. Anything up here? Rotational control. As you leave, the slate peak gives you chirps insistently. You check and see a message. Found a possible entry to the core facility on the low end. Meet me here ASAP. Peak. A blinking marker gives you their position as on the free side as, as on the free spoke side of the main block. Better head to the low end. You arrive at the coordinates given by Peak Slate, a rundown but active corner of the low end, where a short glass-roofed alley turns off from one of the main thoroughfares. You wait in the mouth of the alley, leaning against the wall and watching the street life go by. Children hop across grids scratched onto metal floor plates, playing games of their own devising, while other residents sit and talk and play Tafla. It is hard to believe that all this is at threat. It seems so concrete, so real. How could some intangible protocol erase all this? As you are watching, a voice calls out to you from one of the tablet tables and sets up along the way. God. I'm still getting used to reading a lot again, out loud. You move a little closer and recognize the sitting player immediately. Caster sits, tablet pieces and board ready in front of him, smiling at you. Sleeper, my partners will not arrive for our usual game. Come, please, take her place. He beckons you over, standing and nudging you to sit down with him. A rematch is in order. You owe me a game. Almost immediately, the caster begins the game. Everyone on the eye knows how to play Tavla. A methodical movement of the counters across their triangular points of ready fit for the rhythm of life on the ramshackle space station. Most games begin the same way, with each player moving with independence, focused on achieving their optimal early game setup. But there is a moment in each game where it becomes necessary to notice the other player, to anticipate the crossing of the counters across the board, a point of contact when routine becomes negotiation, and negotiation becomes conflict. As this moment arrives, the subtle I cannot read. As this moment arrives, the subtle shift in the texture of the interaction, Caster begins to speak. I find myself surprised for you continually, Sleeper. He looks over at his glasses at you. The way you conduct yourself, for example, suggests an anxious refrain, a defensive protective quality. But in your Tavla game, he pauses to move a counter. I see only risk. Have you been watching me? Caster sighs. Let's not be paranoid. You are aware of my interest in you, are you not? Risk is of course necessary to play Tavla. To move a piece is to expose it, but it should be done with calculation. With proper analysis, then if the piece is taken, Caster moves a counter, taking one of yours with a practice swap, placing it beside the board, it is already accounted for. But if you move forward with abandon, as if risk was just a secondary effect of action, a consequence, not its primary guide, he gestures for you to take your turn, a cause. I play my way. He smiles. Indeed, indeed, that is all I seek. You move your piece. This locks you into being reactive. If you don't mind me saying so, You are responding, which means you are being led. He leans back to consider the board. This place, it mirrors you, Sleeper. It is also reactive. It was born from a crisis, the collapse of Solheim, and ever since it has been reacting without any central guiding principle. No analysis, no calculation. Just look at our refugee crisis, for example. It is all reaction, all risk-taking, and little risk calculation. At first I found the chaos enlivening, especially when trying to track its outcomes, but now I find it exhausting. He laughs. It always amuses me that this place is literally spun from below the rim. Below this very stack of habitation blocks is the most important control facility on the Eye. Spun from the rim, he laughs again. What better metaphor could you find for disorder? His face drops. But why am I telling you that? That facility, that fact is precisely why you are here. He smiles an unsettlingly warm welcome. You feel a shiver through your body, as though something has changed the air. What is this? No words come out of your mouth. You feel removed from yourself, watching from behind frosted glass. Your eyes dart side to side. Inertia sets in. Castor still smiling. The risk you are planning to take here, Sleeper, is not yours to take. Castor's tone is unshifted as he speaks as if this is still some casual conversation between passing acquaintances. You are leaping towards a chaotic outcome with no respect for risk. You see, calculating outcomes, that's my specialty. That's why I am here. I was hired as a conduit for risk, as a collector of data that might pertain to its arrival. He removes his glasses to clean them, and you see something flicker across their surface, a shimmering stream of characters. This system, this station is already theirs. Solheim's collapse meant a corporate fire sale. Assets changed hands. My employers, Senate Strat, brought out the entire system, and for the past decades have been its one valid owner. He polishes his glasses diligently. But to possess this system, the H1 system, he pauses, Elion to you, well, that is a matter of risk. Of how much force, how much cost, how much conflict a clearance would take. He replaces his glasses. That risk must be calculated against the favorable outcome. In short, how much this place is worth to us. For a long time, the answer was nothing. H1 could offer nothing that would warrant the risk. But the markets change, the demands shift, and Senate stat we analyze, we follow. We respond. He puts his glasses back on his face. H1 is about to become part of the most important system in this part of the galaxy. He glances around. The lone con channel operating within 7 or so newly surveyed rich resource systems. A frontier town that feeds the gold rush, so to speak. So here we are, reevaluating the risk, reclaiming our property, starting up the con channel and clearing the way for what comes next. He sits back, looking at the board. He gestures, your move. You will kill thousands. You manage to force out the words. Castor looks out, a little surprised. I am an analyst, Sleeper. I will do nothing. He shakes his head. Senate Stat is a corporate body that will take the required actions. Of course, I do not need to explain myself to you, but in the role as an analyst, in my calculations, I see great promise in you. Your ability to enter systems, to shift them to your will. Not every sleeper has this capacity. I assume you know that, he smiles. It truly is a wonderful happenstance of SNERP's technology. I imagine even they are not fully aware of it. He takes his move, claiming another of your pieces as you watch. And as you watch, you realize the inevitability of his victory. I will make you an offer, to come willingly or come by force. This station will collapse, we can be sure of that, but your ability to work with data, well for an analyst, that is very intriguing. He pauses to push his glasses up his nose. Very intriguing indeed. He glances around. Come with me as a collaborator or a prisoner. Consider the risk. On one hand, almost certain death. On the other, a possible future. Analyst or not, you must see it. Speak now, sleeper. The game is forfeit. You must see that. He holds out a hand. You are of value. You are needed. You feel a slight release in the inertia that grips you, enough to allow you to speak, to respond. You realize that you are already in Castor's hands, that you cannot move from this place if you wanted. Sleeper? You hear the familiar voice above the crowds. Sleeper, I'm here. You are unable to turn your head to see Peak, but you notice Castor's eyes following them as they come up from behind you. Then you see Castor's eyes glance down, toward his hands, concealed beneath the table. Sleeper! Peak comes around the front of you and waves a hand in your face. We were supposed to be meeting, remember? They glance at Castor. Sorry, am I interrupting something? You cannot speak. Castor shoots Peak a wide smile. Hello, you must be a friend of Sleeper. You watch one of his hands lift close to his body, some dark shape concealed in it, a weapon. You try to scream to shout, but Castor's attention remains partially on you, and while it does, you can do nothing. Pete glances at your static form. What's happening here? Sleeper? They put a hand on your shoulder. Are you okay? As Peak stares into your eyes, you see Castor behind, his hand lifting the dark object unfolding. And in that split moment it does, you feel his attention shifting to Peak, shifting away from you. And as you feel the inertia lifting, and as you know this is the only moment you will have to act, shove. You lurch forward wildly, like a sprung trap. Your head hits Peak's chest and carries them down into Castor. Somewhere, some digital screech is echoing through the walkway. They tumble together. The object in Castor's hands skitters across the floor. You realize the screech is you. You get to your feet, grab Peak, and run. You run as hard as you can, the scream chasing you down the walkway as you shove through the residence. Peak dragged behind. Run from the cold grip of whatever power Castor had over you. The signals that locked you into this body of yours, that broke the connections and crawled up your spine. Eventually you stop, both you and Peak collapsing, heaving, breathing into the cold metal floor. When they are able to speak, Peak asks you to explain, and you tell them everything Castor has told you. About SenatSat, about their claim on the Hellion system, the reactivation of the con channel, the Hellion system's growing importance. It flows out of you in desperate gulps, unable to believe your own mouth as you hear those words coming back to you. All you feel is the need to push back against the cold hand on your shoulder, the vast cold eye that has turned to look at this system, the ghost limbs of corporate control that are extending their reach. Peak is quiet for a long time, then they speak. We have to finish this, Sleeper. They meet your eye. We have to complete the seeding of the systems. We have to set the gardener free. You're right. If this choice is between the gardener and those people, I will choose the gardener every time. Their eyes are cold and steely. I would choose anything over them. You stand together. The final control facility is here. I found it. Peak looks at you grimly. I can take you as soon as you are ready. Time is only up. This is the only shot you'll have. Alright, we have an ad break coming up in a little over a minute. I do not play during ad breaks, so when the ad break hits, I enjoy the 3 minutes of downtime. And I will resume the game once the ad break is over. Well, there may not be much of this game left. Oh, that was a good reroll. Yeah, we'll just use whatever dice I get over the next couple of cycles to break this open. Alright, now we'll rest. Feeding the stray one more time. Alright, still plenty of time. And there's the ad break. I will see you in 3 minutes. Alright, we are back. Let's get back to protecting the eye. And Bob's your uncle. Sleeper, here! Pete calls you from across the flickering corridor. An elevator to the core. They smile. This is it. It has been a long set of cycles hunting for a path through the derelict layers of old Solheim offices and workshops, but finally, here it is. The path down to the core. You rush over to peek. As you do, the doors grind open, and the dingy-looking elevator flickering nervously as they do. You look at Peek, who nervously gestures for you to get in. Step in. The elevator bounces a little but stays stable. You glance back to see Peak watching you nervously. They follow you in sheepishly. Just a little nervous. Peak reaches over and punches the button for the lowest level, flinching a little as the door grind closed. The elevator sets off, screeching through the floors as it does at an unsettlingly bad volume. I'd feel more uncomfortable if we spoke. Peak raises their voice over the noise. It's not going to be a short trip. How's Aish? Peak pauses. I was thinking more like small talk. Elevator talk, they sigh. She is packing. They rub their eyes. Once Aish has set her mind on something, well, you know her now. You know what I mean. The screeching of the elevators fills the silence. Will you leave with her? Peak thinks for a moment. I don't know, Sleeper. I honestly don't know. Part of me wants to run. To keep running for as long as I can. I am used to that. But another part is done with that. Is done with denying my past, my history. If I ever want to feel comfortable, to feel settled, don't I need to somehow resolve the person I was with the person I am now? Peak goes quiet and you do too. There are too many possible questions, too many possibilities before you. It seems easier to get on with the task at hand and leave the consequences for later. The elevator screams to a stop and the doors ping open with a strangely cheerful beep. You glance at Peak, time to move on. You both walk out into an atrium, still lit by some ragged, light-looking panels on the ceiling. Once simulating a summer sky, now degraded into a flickering blue and white tapestry of glitches. Peak crosses quickly, making a beeline for the large doors on the far side, where you can make out a fading sign in massive peeling letters, Central Control. You follow, helping them lever open the partially powered doors until the motors kick in and they spring to life, thudding open. You and Peak tumble through across the damp metal. As you stand, you are greeted by flickering lights, thousands of them. A vast cylindrical stack of servers, processors, and transmitters dominates the center of the room, its flickering LEDs reflected in the scattered puddles that surround it. Despite the decay, the warp panels, and water leaks, it is still running, just as it has for decades and decades since the station was first sprung up. You wonder how long it has been since anyone has been in this room. You exchange wide-eyed looks with Peak. This place is a still living piece of history. What now? Peak takes a handful of mulch out from a small bag. It glitters with spores. Now we seed this place. They cross to a server and start packing the mulch deep into the machinery, pushing fistfuls deep into gaps into the paneling, layering it across hardware. As you watch them doing this, you feel a tug, a thread pulling at you. You approach the vast piece of cylindrical hardware that Peak is stuffing mulch into. You run your hands across this plated metal surface and watch the lights blink in response. As you pass, you hear a whirring, like a physical disk drive starting up. Lean closer. You put your face against the metal, smell the hot air venting from the hardware. Heart was the right choice of word, you think. Their whirring shifts alternating, speeding up, slowing down, and as you listen, you hear it modulate into a voice. Sleeper, you freeze. You are here. For a moment, you are afraid. Something in the tonality of the voice is familiar. Navigator. Another drive spins up, and another, giving the voice of a richer multi-tonal sound. I had forgotten what it felt like to speak like this. The drive skip. There is a certain quality to it, a certain physicality. What are you doing here? The drives squawk in unison. Did you imagine the flux, the shadow protocol, that they were just a problem for the people of this station? A high whining begins. They are all the more dangerous to us. I have been hiding once more, jumping from network to network to avoid the shadow as it eats up nodes. A low rumble. I thought my hiding days were done. For the moment, I have found myself at a safe haven here in the core. The shadow has yet to breach this facility, though that is a temporary state of affairs. Rumble stops. My predictions do not point to good outcomes. That's why we are here. You explain to the navigator about Peak's plan, about Gardner's resistance to the shadow, and how by seeding key systems you will protect them from its audience. The drives hum thoughtfully as you speak. A desperate plan, the drives were, but appropriate given the probability of total collapse. I am not sure what will be worse for us, hiding from the erasure of the Shadow Protocol or the assimilation of the Gardener. The drives pause to restart, but we owe you our freedom. I will do what I can to guide the Gardener into the systems you have seeded. Pause. It is correct to do so. Thank you. The drives squeak an affirmation. You have notable persistence, Sleeper. Even with such poor probabilities of success, I will be curious to see the outcome. The drives squeal, the motors giving out. This cannot be sustained much longer. Good luck. A final squeak of affirmation, and then the drives skitter and slow to a halt. You step back from the towering cylinder, staring at the vast piece of Solheim hardware. This whole place was built from ghosts, you think, from old protocols and company hardware, from engines that drove decades of corporate expansion. Is the eye proof that they can be shifted, bent, forced into new configurations that allow for new ways of living? Or is it inevitable? Or is its inevitable collapse proof that these engines of expansion can never be anything other than a corrupt foundation? It seems to depend on who you ask. Done. Peak's shout breaks your line of thought. The beat and damp should help this wars germinate quickly. If we are lucky, there is enough time for some growth before we reconnect the Greenway. They glance at you. That's it. All the facilities succeeded. They sigh. We either just ensured the eye's survival or just stuffed a whole lot of soil into one of its most important computers. They laugh weakly. Shall we go? They start to head back towards the doors and the elevator beyond. Follow. You turn your back on the core and follow Peak back into the elevator. And I think we are in the end game. As you ride your car back up, Peak raises their voice over the screeching. I'm going to the Founder's Gap to finalize the connection. The moment I'm ready, I'll let you know and we'll let the Gardener out. The sooner the better. Peak furrows their brow. If we wait until the final cycle, it'll be too late. If you want to help speed things up, go work with the flotilla. We can't make the connection until we know they are ready to go. Peak swallows. Unleashing Garner could affect them too, if we aren't careful. This will work. Peak nods, opens their mouth to speak, and closes it again. You ride the rest of the way in silence. When you reach the top, you go your separate ways, but before you do, Peak embraces you, burying their face into your shoulder. You stand there together for a moment, spinning with the eye, moving restlessly towards an unknown future. And then they let go and slip away, the pressure of their hug feeling like a bruise as you begin to leave. Alright. So we have to... Alright, so we have to evacuate the eye. Alright, so we'll use this last dice for this. Oof. Alright. Well, I have scrap, so I can modestly repair that without needing another thing of, Alright, we will end the cycle here. As you stop to rest in one of the Pilgrim Seed's carnivorous cavernous bays, hoping to sit up on a supply crate, you hear a now familiar voice behind you. Sleeper, glad you are here. Saul's suit hisses as he clanks it behind you. I knew you'd help us out. We sure do appreciate everything you do for us. No worries. I do mean it, Sleeper. He looks away down in the bay, where sparks jump from welding touches. It's a grim job to be doing without a few friends around. Saul settles beside you, flinching a little but making himself comfortable on the crate. Seems the word got out, this way or that. He nods towards the welders a little way off, one of them wearing shipyard overalls. We had people flowing in from the eye, looking for a place. In truth, it's more than I thought. Saul sighs. It means there's more mouths to feed, more bodies to house, more people to protect. Can we do it? Saul frowns. We'll do what we can, as always. I'm not sure any of it can be enough. He looks down. We were supposed to stay here, not keep running. Saul waves away the thought. Don't listen to me. He gives you a sideways glance. Just a tired old man. He stretches. I have something to ask, though. What is it? With all these evacuees, we'll need a change in plan. He shrugs. Pilgrim Seed can't do it alone. We need the others to help out. We can carry them, house them, but that's all. Now that you've settled down the folks from the Ember Steppe, they sent us supplies grown in those dust houses of theirs. It could get more. He nods to himself. And then the song crews. He rubs his chin. What we need from them is scouting and security. We don't need that docking access of theirs, but with some careful scavenging, they could be our fleet. Those folks, they know you, Sleeper. You earned their trust already. He put a hand on your shoulder. I sent my requests out, and they seem to be complying. But I'll need you out there making sure the work gets done. Time is our greatest enemy now. Saul stares into the distance. I need you out there speeding things up. Of course. Saul nods. All right, then. He climbs off the crate, his suit hissing as he does. Think of it this way. Either way, you won't have to deal with me much longer. He smiles his uneven smile. Unless, of course, you were planning to come along for the trip. I don't know. Saul winks. I'll leave it with you. Saul waves a hand and starts off towards the base entrance, the cackling sound of the wielding quickly covering up his clanking suit. You watch the workers, the shipyard contractor chatting among them, already looking like he belongs. You push the thoughts of escape, of home, and the future to the back of your mind and get up. There's always more to do. You better head to the other ships in the flotilla to see what can be done. Oh boy. Well, there is still... Alright, so there are still 9 cycles left. So... we'll rest up. Yeah, we'll rest up and replenish my dice. Oh wait, alright, I have to complete those scenes first. We'll complete those scenes, then rest up, do whatever, and then juggle these three tasks, which we will get done in time. I knew you'd come. Aki greets you outside the dust house, her eyes bright as always. You are very welcome here, as always. Good to see you, Aki. Aki smiles. And you, Sleeper? Aki puts a hand on your arm. Walk with me. And she guides you past the dust houses. You look inside and see other members of the crew working in the orange dust, planting and tending to the steppe ecosystem. We want to be the suppliers for the evacuees. I'm sure you have heard. We will put the dust houses to use. She leads you past the dust house where the dust is less, the orange glow not as bright, the air a little more clean. We are adapting slowly, but we are adapting. We have to produce food, clothes, necessary things for the journey ahead, she smiles. The plants of steppe are once again sustaining a population, and that makes me proud. Aki stops at a half-empty dust house, scoured of its sand. It is being filled with mulch. We brought this from the Greenway. She stares at the green and brown, a strange sight even to you, now that you are used to the amber dust of steppe. I admit it is hard work for us. We are not familiar with these plants. Can you help us? I will do my best. Thank you, she nods solemnly. I know that the eye is suffering, that it is at risk. I know what that is like. It's okay. I wish I had a lesson. I wish I had a lesson to share with you from our loss on steppe. She shakes her head, but for the moment I cannot see what that might be. She gathers herself. If it gives you meaning, the work here is steady and worthwhile. But if you do not have time, she smiles a weak smile, I will not blame you. Hold on to your memories, but not too tightly. She pauses. Sadness will not sustain you. She falls silent, and you both watch the work in the dust house for a while. You can already see a greening fridge of moss and on the mulch of the dust house. The first new signs of life. Will you soon be like the people of steppe, leaving behind a home? Or will you be stubborn and hold your ground despite what it might mean? You wait a little longer with Aki, the moment of a welcome suspension in time, a rare moment in this rush towards an end. You glance at Aki, and she puts a hand on your shoulder in solidarity. After a short while, Aki sighs, It is good to see you, Sleeper. Perhaps we will see each other again before we depart. She walks away, fingertips brushing against the glass of the dust house windows. Aki turns back for a moment as if she wants to say something, and then thinks better of it. And then turns away. Alright. There's plenty of time to do these both. I have to believe that. The docking access is in chaos when you arrive, the staccato bursts of welding torches, the shouts of crews gathering, the rapid flow of supplies and kit from dock to dock. You can tell already that news of the flotilla's imminent departure has reached this place before you. Come to join the Exodus, Sleeper? Peter approaches you from one of the working crews, a smile on his face and a lightness in his step you haven't seen before. What's happening? Peter gestures to the chaos. The singers are rising, Sleeper. Peter eyes you. I suppose you are here on Saul's orders again? He winks at you. Nothing Ember's Hearth like to do more than ordering people around. I am here by choice. Fair enough. Just your timing always seems to be a cycle or two after we get some requests from the Hearth ship. He shrugs an exaggerated shrug. Must be a coincidence. Well, Saul has lucky anyway. His request for us to dismantle the Axis and be the vanguard for the flotilla's onward journey to the starboard belt aligns perfectly with our plans. What plans? To leave this damn place, of course. We've been prepping ever since the cordon collapsed. If we can build our escape and make the Hearth ships think we are complying with their orders at the same time, then it's 2-1 for us. Peter shakes his head. Those idiots will never see it coming. You are leaving the flotilla? We are our own flotilla, Sleeper. Peter looks away at the busy Axis. We aren't going to tie ourselves to heart and step any longer. Why would we? I understand. To help them. Peter scoffs. They're taking on evacuees from the Eye, that's what I've heard. So how about they help themselves before they ask us to make up for their bad decisions? Peter looks down. Look, nothing against you or yours, Sleeper, but we have to get out from under the shadow of Step and Hearth, and this is the time, Peter grimaces. We won't let the flux catch us again. Not a chance. And for the first time, you see fear in his eyes. Want to help us make that leap? Grab a torch, talk to a crew. You're welcome to it. Peter sniffs. Every person here is free to prove themselves. I'll help when I can. Peter nods. Just a stop on the road, Sleeper. I'm afraid that's all this was. Peter glances out past the docking axis, through the outer windows to the stars beyond. A lot of space out there for those willing to take it. He looks you in the eye. I hope you'll be around before we go, but if not, he smiles. Stay strong. And with that, Peter thumps you on the shoulder and heads back to his crew. With a purpose, a direction visible in every step of his rapid stride. Alright, now that these tasks are officially available, alright, we'll use the last of my scrap components here. And we will end this cycle. Alright, that's a fairly decent dice rollout. Let's go. Alright, finished off Pilgrim Prep. They just keep coming. Perhaps the Flux event scared people enough that they really believe the Eye will collapse. Perhaps they are sick of Haven Age or the Council's infighting and the Hardliners. Or perhaps they just want to take a chance at some new future, a place that is anywhere but here. Whatever it is, the evacuees don't stop. They come on the flotilla shuttles, on their own ships, however they can. You've seen so many faces pass that they are almost meaningless now, a parade of features that seem both familiar and distant. You've been helping people, lifting bags, bringing in supplies, directing them to the berths you helped build. Some of them recoil from your touch, still unfamiliar with sleepers. Others treat you with pity. Some with hate, snatching their bags and storming off. Still you help. Still you carry boxes and bags. Nothing can stop you. You don't look for Saul. You know he is busy, just like you, trying to make this thing work. Trying to fit as many people as will come onto the Pilgrim Seed. You know you will see him before this is all over. You keep working, but there's something in the back of your mind, something eating away at you. You try to push it to the back of your thoughts, but it keeps coming back. The Eye is over. That is the thought. That the Eye, even if the Flux doesn't get it, is on its way out. How can it survive when these floods of people are leaving it behind? It's a thought that troubles you, because it makes you question why you have held on so long in a place that seems so temporary for so many people. Are you just a stubborn idiot? Someone who didn't get the message? Or are you strong, committed for lasting the storm, for seeing the collapse coming and facing it head-on? Because there is something you are sure of now. This place, like all places, is temporary. And as each phase passes you, each family packs up and gets on board the Pilgrim Seed. It feels ever more temporary, ever more fragile, which means it either desperately needs protecting or it desperately needs to be left behind. The choice is yours. All right. All right, come on, give me a good outcome here. All right. All right, that's a good day. Still plenty of time left. Hopefully this game does not throw me a curveball, but definitely feels like we are in good position to pull everything off ahead of the next Flux event. All right. You sit in one corner of the dust house and inspect your work. The dust house, the one where plans for the greenway and some of your the step species blah, and some of the step species intermingle, has become your favorite. The moss and dust sharing the space in curving terraces. The pale knots of step silk freckled with yellowing lichial symbionts. It's a hypnotic arrangement. You look down and see the intertwining of fungal threads and a dust-caked roots, and feel a little glow of pride at what has been achieved. You hear the entry lock of the dust house hiss open, and assuming it is Aki, turn to greet her. Sleeper, I should have known you'd be here. Rico smiles a warm smile, leaning on her crutch. You must be one of the Greenfinger people on this station. Rico! Now, has it been so long? She smiles a wry smile. No need for any drama. I met some of the staff refugees in the Greenway. They were gathering plants and I confronted them. Turns out they were very friendly. She smiles to herself. Aki was very apologetic, but I told them they were welcome to anything they were like. She told me I'd be welcome to come see, and, well, I thought I'd take her up on her offer. She looks around the dust house with its strange hybrid ecosystem. I have to say, I'm glad I did. I'm glad too. I could see that. Rico limps over to you. She holds out a hand. How about you take me on a tour? You take Rico's hand and lead her around the hybrid dust house. You show her how the step silk knots help provide a strong base for fungal and lichial growths, and how the dust mixes with the spores. You show her the different species of steps, tubers, and the way they feed the soil with nutrients that help the herbaceous greenway plants survive. She nods along, her eyes bright with ideas. She stops after a while and gestures for you to sit together. I know something is happening with the eye, Sleeper. She looks out at the plants. We all felt the Flux event hit and everyone is talking about what's next. I came here to figure something out, to understand what I might do about it all. You glance at her and see the glossiness in her eyes, and I think I have decided. What you have done here, what Aki and the other steppe refugees have done here, is incredible. A whole new ecosystem, built from the strange, artificial, changed remains of the two worlds. But I am not of two worlds. I am of the eye. A tear runs down her cheek. Like it or not, I am entwined with this station. I'm old growth. I don't have much time anymore, and it seems to accelerate with every cycle. She frowns. It blurs together, separates, overlaps, comes back to me in strange ways. The time I do have, that's time I want to spend on the eye, in the greenway, watching things grow. She wipes her cheek. One day I'll lie in the fields and not get back up. She smiles. The tear tracks down both cheeks. And when the green takes me, I'll be so glad. I'll miss you. Rico smiles. The feeling is mutual, Sleeper. She wipes her eyes and turns to you. But that's enough of me blubbering on about it. She furrows her brow. What I want to know is, what are you planning? I don't know. Rico smiles. We all have to get to know ourselves, Sleeper. To know what it is that drives us. I'm sure you'll decide how to act in the manner you know. But you also have to ask yourself why it is so. She places a trembling hand on yours. Don't neglect that. Oh! She suddenly lifts both hands. Don't let me forget this. She reaches into her coat and pulls out a transparent bag of sporing clubheads, with carefully preserved root systems. I'd like to plant these. If you go, you'll need them. She looks down at her feet, and if you don't, well, maybe another sleeper will benefit. She frowns. I can offer that at least. Thank you. She nods. Don't thank me. These are yours by right. Rico stands and limps over to a pile of mulch. She delicately takes the clubheads out and bends them into the soil there with precise, expert hands. You should go, Sleeper. I'll be a while. She calls back, not looking away from the job at hand. See you around. She says it casually, but there's a note of finality to her speech. Goodbye, Rico. You turn and leave the dust house, cycling back through the protective lock, back into the cool quiet of the ship. Aki is waiting for you. It's beautiful. She is looking through the observation window, and the green reflects in her eyes. The plants look happy together. She spots Rico with her hands in the soil. Ah, the botanist came. She shoots you a look. A friend of yours? More than that. She nods. She speaks beautifully about the Greenway. I should go in and accompany her. She pauses. Are you leaving us? For now. Aki sighs. The first of many goodbyes, she suddenly embraces you, wrapping you in her layers of rough cloth. She pulls back. I wish you a steady step and a clear path. She smiles. A farewell from my world. Godspeed. She smiles. I like how that sounds. Godspeed to you. She nods and smiles one last warm smile before turning and entering the dust house. You watch as she walks inside, Rico turning with a smile to greet her. She kneels beside the old botanist, and you see her pointing to the clubheads and asking questions. You are unable to hear them, but despite that, you can easily imagine the measured, even tone laced with excitement that Rico is using to explain the clubheads, the Greenway, and much, much more. You turn, leaving them to their conversation. Your step is light, despite the burdens you carry, and the smile Rico and Aki were sharing is still on your lips as you depart. Alright. Alright. That's 3 successful actions for this last task, with 7 cycles left. Alright. Alright. The docking axis is little more than a shell. Everything that could have been pulled from its interior, every arm not used for docking, has been cut away. What remains is a Spartan void with a patchwork of flooring that allows movement. Piles of unusable material are tucked away in corners, but almost everything else has been cleared out. You haven't seen Peter since he last spoke, and you are now realizing that you probably never will. There are plans to be made, escapes to plot, the shadow of Hearth to escape. On the cycle the flotilla leaves, these ships will disperse too, the moons of Ember spinning out on different orbits. The chaos has become a quiet diligence now, as the time for departure is so near. Crews cross the axis from ship to ship at speed, bringing supplies or advice. Perhaps meeting up to discuss travel vectors in hushed tones or to debate why they haven't left yet, and whether they should. Among these singer crews, recognizable for their specialist clothing and often shorn heads, you see the occasional refugee. A paying passenger, or a replacement engineer or pilot perhaps, come from the eye to seek fortune with the singers. Most of the crews have had 2 or 3 of these editions, some more, and you can't help but wish that, whatever reason brings them to throw in their lot with the singer crews, that they will have safe passage. You feel a strange attachment to these citizens of the eye setting out for the first time. And one of them catches your eye, crossing the axis with the crew, carrying a large bag and a nervous look. Tala. You freeze for a second. What is she doing here? She glances around, feeling your eyes on her, and catches your eye. Her face brightens immediately. Sleeper! Tala mutters something to her crew and rushes over, dumping the large bag at your feet and embracing you without thinking. What are you doing here? She sheepishly glances at her bag. Sleeper, she pauses. I'm. She pauses again, folding her arms defensively. I'm going to the starboard belt. She waits for your response, nervously. I don't understand. Do you remember me mentioning my family, Sleeper? My brother? You think back to your griot blurred conversations in the back of the Bantigan. He came here with me, with my family when we were just. Ugh. He came here with me, with my family, when we were little, just after we left Sinza. She bites her lip. He left when we were both teenagers, jumped on some spacer crew headed to the starboard belt. I'm. She sighs. I'm an idiot. She shakes her head, and I'm going after him. She looks down, not sure what to add. That makes sense. She looks at you. It does? She laughs nervously. I'm not so sure anymore. I really don't know if it makes sense or if it's the right thing, but ever since I heard that it was where the refugee flotilla was going, I couldn't stop thinking about him. What happens to the bar? Someone will have to run it. She leaves a big pause. I mean, I can ask Francis. He'd be happy to, or one of the others, she blurts out. And of course, if you are leaving with the flotilla, or someone else, it'd be totally okay if you wouldn't say yes. It's no pressure. It's fine, whichever way I was thinking. I could run the bar. Tala nods, smiling. I think so. I mean, you can take a second. But, She glances at the crew she was walking with, who were chatting a little way away. There's not exactly much time. So considering that, she grabs the key hanging around her neck, the key to the Bantian. Do you want to do it? Yes. Tala leaps slow forward and embraces you again. Thank you, Sleeper. I couldn't be leaving it in better hands. She pulls the key from around her neck and places it around yours as if presenting a medal. Remember to lock up, especially the back. And if you... And remember to empty the still if you are leaving. And... Ugh. And remember to empty the still if you are leaving things closed for a few cycles and... She stopped herself. I won't be gone forever, of course. She blinks a tear. I can come back and check in. Maybe once I find my brother, she pauses, unable to finish that thought. She smiles at you, and you can see the weight lifting off her shoulders, her eyes already drifting toward the crew, the ship, or the next big thing. She's ready. I'd better be going. She nods at the crew nearby. Not a good start to keep my guys waiting. She lifts the bag onto her shoulder. She looks down the curve of the eye towards the overlook. Thanks again, Sleeper, for everything you helped me with. She nods. I wouldn't have been able to leave if I hadn't made things work here. She adjusts the bags. Dad wouldn't have let me. Goodbye, Tala. She sniffs. Goodbye, Sleeper. Then Tala turns, heading back to the crew who will carry her to the starward belt. You watch her go, and despite the departure, it is hard to feel sad about Tala. You know her energy will carry her forward, and you hope her brother is somewhere on that bright path. You hold the key in your hand, metal still a little warm from Tala's body. You turn it over in your fingers, thinking about how it feels like a tool and a burden. You can still lock up and leave, you figure, but now that will feel like breaking something fragile. And if you stay, who knows what this little metal promise might grow into. Alright. Nothing to upgrade here. Let's see if there are any other active scenes. I mean, what the hell? Alright, we'll rest at home. Alright. What do I do now? Because there's nothing to do. While I wait for the flux to hit. Like, we did everything we were supposed to do. I mean, I guess I can just fuck around here. Alright, I will be right back. I gotta run to the bathroom. See you in a couple of minutes. Okay, I am back. Sorry about that, folks. Guess I just have to. Nothing is going to be happening. And I'll just rest. Make sure my condition doesn't dip too low or anything like that. Oh, Peak Slate chirps in your pocket. You take it out. A message. The connection is ready. Meet me at the Founder's Gap, Greenway side. Peak. Clench your jaw. It's time. Alright, alright, alright. Here we go. You find Peak waiting near where you first met, at the entrance to the docking tunnel for the Founder's Ferry. They are leaning beside the wall in the flickering light, and you realize how different they look from when you first met. There is a darkness around their eyes, a sense of exhaustion to their pose, but also a solidity, a sense of purpose and self knowledge. I think that word is solidity. They look concrete, for want of a better word, solid. Sleeper. They spot you, and a small smile crosses their face. I'm glad you came. I wouldn't be anywhere else. Their smile grows. Crunch time. They shake their head in disbelief. Let's go. They, the break in the connection is up ahead. They walk away from the docking tunnel into a ragged, half-crushed corridor that descends into darkness. They poke their slate and a torch flicks on, lighting the way ahead. As you descend through the layers of the broken edge of the eye, Peak talks, filling the silence. I had to hunt all over this part of the eye to find the point where the connection was broken. They run a hand along the buckled metal of the wall, stooping under the angled ceiling. This hole, the gap, got knocked in the eye when Solheim collapsed. It's impossible to tell who did it, but my guess is they tried to scuttle the eye. If Solheim couldn't keep hold of their fancy new station, well, no one could. Peak ducks through a fractured passageway with hanging wires like vines. So this place has always been on borrowed time. I've managed to weave together the old connections and run a new patch down to where the main line still runs through the remaining ribs of the rim. They smile. Just like keeping those old XPR platforms running. H would be so proud if she'd bothered to help. As Peak goes quiet, the corridor opens out into a wider, twisted passage with compartments on either side thick with wiring. Here, this is the connection point. You can see where Peak has levered off a panel and hooked up a thick cable to the existing hardware. As thick as a tree trunk, it snakes off into the dark ahead, its yellow rings making it look like some huge and exotic serpent. What now? Now we make the connection, Peak pauses. Both stand there, staring at the point where the new cable meets the old one. The ends separate, filled with multi-pin male and female connectors, and braced inside a metal framework with a scissoring mechanism. Bring them together, seal them, and the greenway will be connected to the rest of the eye for the first time in decades. Peak shifts their weight onto one hip, pushing their hair out of their eyes. I feel like this should be more momentous. Like there should be some kind of ritual or ceremony. They pause, or someone should stop us from doing this crazy thing. Just do it. Peak nods. Pull the plaster off, right? Okay. They hold both sides of the supporting framework, ready to scissor it closed. Here we go. Peak wrenches the framework closed, and the connectors thunk together with a sound that echoes down the ruined corridor into the dark on both sides. Both you and Peak wait with bated breath, unsure of what it is you are waiting for. Do you expect the eye to suddenly stop spinning or lurch on its axis? For the power to go out or a shockwave to run through the corridors of the rim? You meet Peak's eyes and suddenly they burst out laughing. What are we waiting for? They put a hand to their forehead. Alright, we have an ad break coming up in a little over a minute. I do not play during ad breaks, so when the ad break hits, feel free to enjoy it. Get up, stretch, do some self-care, and when the 3 minutes are up, I'll resume the game. You meet Peak's eyes and suddenly they burst out laughing. What are we waiting for? They put a hand to their forehead. I feel like we planted a tree and are expecting it to burst out of the ground. They shake their head. But you feel it. You feel it flowing like a steam that has been released from a cave and rushes out into the sunlight, crystalline and clear. You swear you can hear it running from in the wires, like water, like rain, like steam. It doesn't roar or rattle, but it rustles and rises there like liquid roots. Peak sees the look in your eyes and stops laughing. You can see it, can't you? You can't see it, not with your eyes at least, but it's everywhere. And now it's out. Can't be put back in, that much is clear. You imagine the rim of the eye like a sponge, like soil, soaking up the gardener and their chorus, the gaps filling with a burbling, constant growing life. Peak stares at you, waiting for something, Peak stares at you, waiting for something, anything. Gardener is free. Peak nods slowly and closes their eyes. They go to speak, but words fail them. Suddenly, Peak's slate chirps. They jump and scramble for it, almost dropping it in the process. When they stare at it, a look of confusion crosses their face. Is it the gardener? Peak's mouth falls open. It's Aish. They swallow. She's leaving. They look at you with panic. Before you can speak, they have turned away and are moving. Alright, there's the ad break. I'll see you in 3 minutes. Alright, we are back. Thank you for waiting. Let's continue. Wait. They don't they don't turn around. They don't respond, and as you watch their silhouette, lit by the slate's touch, disappear rapidly around a corner. Take out the slate Pete gave you and turn on the torch. The wires all around look like pale roots in the harsh light, and you turn away from them. They are gardeners now. You work your way back through the corridors, retracing your steps. You imagine Peak, panicked, running towards the cordon, realizing that their greatest fear has come to pass. You wonder if they will be able to persuade Aish to stay. If Aish is leaving, you think, then the flotilla must be leaving too. The thought makes you shiver in the darkness, and you push it away. You are not ready. You focus on avoiding the hanging wires, the low ceilings, and make your way back out into the lit quarters of the Founder's Ferry Dock. Castor is waiting for you. Oh no. He holds up his hand. Now, sleeper. No need to fear. He raises his eyebrows. I understand now it was my mistake to force you. A miscalculation. Get lost. I understand you aren't angry. That is a reasonable reaction. He pushes his glasses up his nose. I only ask that you will continue in the spirit of being reasonable and allow me to state my case. I won't hold you here, sleeper. Castor stands to his side, but I wish to speak. You stop, giving Castor his opportunity. Castor nods. At first I thought that, if you'll excuse the phrase, taking possession of your particular talents was the opportunity. He smiles a broad smile. But you are more than that, and I understand that now. Your arrival on the station, your ability to touch the networks, this makes you the very definition of a wild card. He touches the rim of his glasses. Senate stats analysis, my analysis, we could have never accounted for you. This system, the Helen system, is about to experience a significant change, about to open up the Senate stats bailiffs, Conway's claimants, and every industry and element an active con channel brings. And yet this very cycle you let another wild card free, Gardner. I have to admit, this development makes me afraid, Sleeper. It makes me afraid of what an intelligence like this will sacrifice to protect itself, or what atrocities it might commit through madness, and yet, Caster's eyes glint. What a compelling object such an intelligence is. Let me protect you, mark you out, keep Senate staff from eliminating by force or legal expediency as they will with every other squatter on this ring. Caster claps their hands together. In exchange, when Senate stat comes for this place, you facilitate the handover. You calm the protocols. You give us the Gardener. Never. Caster takes off their glasses and polishes them. Disappointing, you begin to leave. As you approach, he speaks quietly, an urgent whisper. I do not wish to see you lost. You are of great value, and if you ever want to see that realized, you push past, ignoring him, and his voice fades. The last you see of him is his slow nod, perhaps a mark of resignation, or just another deferential gesture aimed at manipulating your response. Doesn't matter either way, you are done with him. You head towards the cordon, Peak and the flotilla in the forefront of your mind. There we are. You arrive into the chaos of the cordon. The final shuttles are leaving the ramshackle docks that have formed along the edge of the gaps during the flotilla's stay. As they do, groups of evacuees push on board, hoping to be among the final people to escape from the Eye. The fear created by the Flux event has become a series of rumors, and those rumors have driven many out of their homes. Others have staunchly doubled down on their position on the Eye, refusing to accept any gossip of a second collapse. You are unsure of what you think. Is the collapse a certainty? Will Peak's actions this cycle have changed anything at all? You are tired of these questions and instead set out to look for your friends. You quickly spot Peak and Aish at the far end of the chaotic bay. You quickly make your way through the crowd, slipping between the gaps and the rushing evacuees, stepping over bags and luggage. Progress is slow, but as you approach, you can hear their voices over the crowd. You try to push closer, but there are many evacuees gathered around them and their shuttle. You have made your decision, Peak, and it puts you against me. Aish is standing with one foot on the boarding ramp while Peak argues with her. The evacuees are eyeing them, eager to intervene, but intimidated by Aish's evident strength and attitude. Aish, it doesn't have to be like this. Peak looks desperate. Tear tracks already on their cheeks. We can find a way. Aish shakes her head. I have always protected you, Peak. I have always taken you under my wing. But I understand that you are not mine to control, and you have chosen to be here and not with me, despite everything. I have chosen to stop running, Peak cries out of frustration. You can choose to stop running too. We can stay here and try to live. Don't you remember what it feels like to live, Aish? Aish turns away. I remember what it was like to live on Hawthorne. What it was like to be worried for your safety every cycle. To live under the control of my mother, of the administration. To work to maintain something that no one wanted, no one needed, so our corporation could maintain a foothold in this system. You talk as if this place, in the very same system, is any different. What is there here but the same grind, for other masters, for employers, administrators, for those who gain from our struggles? There may not be a corporation controlling the Eye, but there is control. There is power in action here. So what then? Peak shouts. You run from anyone or everyone who could ever be close to you in search of freedom? In search of some perfect place where no one has power over you? Peak is crying openly now. I want to be part of something, Aish, even if it is broken and suffering, even if it cannot be free. Aish pauses and takes a deep breath. She nods, her eyes closed. This isn't Hawthorne anymore. We aren't tied by our childhood, or by our shared need to escape. We are both just people in the system. She opens her eyes. I release you, Peak. You are free of me. Aish, please. They hold out a hand. There is a life here if you want it. Aish turns and smiles at Peak, her eyes wet now too. Then you live it for me, Peak. I can't. And then she climbs up the boarding ramp, the evacuees taking their chance to climb on board too. You watch as the shuttle closes its ramp, lifts off, and leaves the bay. The crowds are dispersing now as they get onto the shuttles or say their goodbyes and move past into the main part of the cordon. You push past the last of them to reach Peak. Peak doesn't turn as you come closer. Sleeper, Aish is gone. She chose to leave. Peak nods. I've known her my whole life. They wipe their face. But since we arrived, we've been going different directions. They'll turn to face you. I'll miss the Briar, but she'll serve Aish well. I know that. Sleeper! The shout takes you by surprise, and you see Saul coming across the bay towards you, the last two shuttles loading up behind him. He reaches you, his suit hissing as he does. Can't believe you'd make an old man run across the bay to get you. He pauses to take a breath. The singers have gone. They left at the start of the cycle. They broke away from the flotilla. You smile as you think of Tala, safely cradled away with one of those singer ships, on her way to the starboard belt and hopefully a reunion with her brother. Godspeed, Tala. What are you smiling at? Saul interrupts your thoughts. They've forced our hand. We have to leave now. Saul shakes his head. If we follow close enough behind, maybe they'll end up being our scouts anyway. I reckon any hostile spacers out there will give them a wide berth. Pilgrim Seed will need a little time to make our way out of the cordon, but I'm heading back now to get her started. Thankfully, the step ships are sticking with us, so we'll be plenty well supplied for the journey to the belt. He pauses. Anyway, I didn't plot all the way over here to tell you that. Saul looks between you and Peak with a raised eyebrow. It's now or never, Sleeper. I'm good to my word, and I kept a berth for you, but this is your last chance to take it. He scratches his beard to make a call. You glance out of the flotilla beyond the bay, beautiful in the light of Hellion's sun. You think of the long journey to the starward belt, of the people inside the Pilgrim Seed, the possible futures that await. You think of the people here on the Eye, Peak beside you, of the Brantian, of Tala, and the key that still hangs around your neck, of promises and responsibilities. You open your mouth to speak and realize this is the final time you will have to make this choice. You have to be sure. I'm staying. You say the words, and the moment you do, the weight of it all seems to descend on you. You stumble a little, then stand up straight, using to be crushed. You feel a tightness in your chest, and a haze blurring your thoughts. Saul says, "Good luck," he sighs. "You'll need it." He grips your shoulder and meets your eye. In the haze, his pitted and rough hand feels so real, so detailed that it grounds you. And then it is gone. Saul goes with it, quickly moving to the waiting shuttle. As he does, you watch, unable to speak, your whole body pulsing. And then another hand falls on your shoulder and it grounds you once more. You turn to see Peak's bright eyes. "Let's go, Sleeper." You nod, and seeing how unsteady you are on your feet, Peak puts an arm around you and steers you towards the entrance to the bay. As you do, you hear the roar, feel the wind as the shuttle takes off. Angles towards the flotilla. You don't turn. Instead, you keep your head down and focus on each step. As you do, you feel Peak beside you, holding a little of your weight, and you holding a little of theirs. This is how it will be for many cycles after you both leave the bay and head back to the Eye. You both hold things for each other, remind each other of the choices you made, remind each other why it is important to keep going despite the moments where it seems impossible. You will keep each other going. That support will be vital when the second flux event hits the eye, when it knocks out the entire free smoke off the power grid, making the whole station lurch with a sickening motion. When it cripples systems and corrupts processes, leading sections of the station to go dark or start venting oxygen. When holding on is all you can do, while the world seems to come apart around you. And yet somehow the eye will persist. Systems will resist total collapse in ways that will seem inexplicable to many, but to you and Peak they will signal the awakening of a new force within the station. That new force will bring with it new challenges and new possibilities in equal measure. Strange growths will be reported all around the station in the wake of the flux event. Fungal crusts pushing through the pipes and wiring. The eye will go wired and fecund, becoming a station of increasing unpredictability, prone to a seasonal rhythm of spore clouds and sun growth spurts. There will be a strange and unsettling beauty of this paradigm shift, as the greening of the station turns from a corporate ruin to some altogether new assemblage of biological and mechanical structures. Rico will take on this challenge with energy that seems impossible for her age, and until her final day, she will delight in the new mysteries the Eye and its gardener produce. As this new year consolidates around the station, you find yourself in the Branigan most cycles, working to keep the place alive. The cycle where you invite Emphasis to come make use of the kitchen will soon go from a one-off event to a regular occurrence, and soon the Bantigan will be filled with spacers eager to try the best preparations of the station's now abundant mushrooms. And on occasion, after a long shift at the Bradian, you will hear the sound of the stray mewling, and you will crumble up some food to sit and watch the cat eat as if it is the only thing in your world that matters. However, in all this newness, the bad old ways will still intrude. Senate Stat, fueled by the Eye's resilience, will begin to send more physical threats, and supply ships and traders will suddenly stop arriving, arrived by a blockade of corporate militia. Life on the Eye will be punctuated by wide-channel broadcasts from Senate Stat stating legal precedents and quoting deeds of ownership, staking a claim on the system. Meanwhile, Haven H will consolidate their power around the Hardline group led by Kemp, but this will push them further from the people of the Eye. As they decay, new forms of station administration will rise. Though the Hardliners will persist as a dangerous force. As the cycles rolls on, the threats gather, new broadcasts will join them, sent by Conway Extractions making counterclaims and assets on the Hellion system, and many on the Eye will grow quiet, losing their appetite for debating these political machinations as they tilt inexorably toward a corporate war. And ever on the Eye will spin, growing now in strange ways, haunted by new strange growths, and hosting cultures of increasing resilience. As the Hellion system descends into crisis, you will find comfort in the fungal patterns, the familiar conversations, the spices, and the smells that accumulate around you as your body continues its unavoidable decay. They settle around you like a veil, and in time it will be impossible to see the Eye without seeing its many variants and versions, past and potential futures. And this masking of the world will mark your approaching end. And one cycle, far from now, that accumulation of memories, of tastes, of people, and places and moments will be the last thing you let go of. But for now, there is only you and Peak, arms around each other, walking slowly out of the bay. Two figures born off crippled systems, linked together, continuing despite your origins. And in this frozen moment, you focus only on the next step, because that is the only way you have learned to persist. And to persist is to believe that a future, any future at all, is possible. Alright, did we get to the true ending? It certainly feels like we have. 126 cycles to get to this point. All right, anything else on here? Okay, this is all right. Nope. All right, we did reach the true end of the game. All right. So this was Citizen Sleeper. Um, one hell of a game. Um, a game that I did not expect to enjoy as much as I did, but I did. Um, much kudos to the development team on this one. So let's see who to rate out to. You know what? Spyronic is still on, and he's apexing around in Apex Legends. So we'll kick it over to him. That's who I'll leave you with. He was lurking earlier, so we'll say hello. All right, we are ready to go. Good night, everyone. Thank you for watching.